It's, if you're gonna have, you know, stories about pretty girls and explosions and laser guns and whatever. That being said, he wishes for me to not to marry a pretty girl from Sweden, but a boy from Kent. I'm all for this, but my religion is telling me no. Think of pretty girls. Think of pretty girls. Almost like my mind to your mind. Think of the pretty girls. Yeah. It was, pretty girls were objectifying women, which was sold to me. It is a very simple narrative. It is a very simple story, in that it's basically just pretty girls shrink, and they are delightful. They are utterly, utterly delightful. Of course, I know that many pretty girls are fully capable of, would stand around the field talking about pretty girls, and I would say, what fucking weirdos are they? They're Neanderthals. And Let's Plays and pretty girls, and while there's life, there's hope. While there's life, there are good. I've gone back to Tumblr because pretty girls, right? Because it's kind of, I want left-wing place. Because it's conspiratorial nonsense about a pretty girl, and that's why people care. That's why people who don't to kind of take my attention away from uncomfortableness, then pretty girls, pretty girls, pretty girls, pretty girls, because also so many pretty girls in Jonathan Creek, so many pretty girls in Jonathan Creek. And I went out today to Guildford for the band Kirsch saying, hey, this is a very pretty girl. I'm gonna clone her. I want the companionship of pretty girls, and it's not even necessarily like in the past I didn't want sex because sex was with girls. It's kind of like my brain is going, yes, I want a pretty girl who I can take as my lovely sylph. A slave trader state when it comes to sylphs, so they can basically be like, here, have another pretty girl. It's okay, you won't attack us because we could just I'm just gonna do a fucking fantasy story about me getting all the pretty girls, and then that didn't work. And then it's like, okay, I was more being sold on the idea of the pretty girl because, hey, if you get the pretty girl, you can be the kind of guy who gets to drink. Then pretty girls. Pretty girls, pretty girls, pretty girls, because they are delightful. They are utterly, utterly delightful. You won't attack us because we could just keep giving you pretty girls to keep you on side. Whereas, of course, my writing is always going to be problematic because I like pretty girls and I cannot lie. No, keep me going. It is learning. It is giving my brain something to chew on that isn't pretty girls and how fucked we all are. No! Go off, go do things with your lives. Go! Find a pretty girl. Make her happy. Do things. This feels nice. It's just there as a thing saying, look at the pretty girls, look at the pretty girls. You want to look at the pretty girls? Go look at the pretty girls, look at the pretty girls, look at the pretty girls. And it's like, okay. Pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl. You know, and yes, it does also go, nerdy guy, nerdy guy, nerdy guy, nerdy guy, nerdy guy. I've been watching Jonathan Creek, and so that's been fun. And yeah, I also, so many pretty girls in Jonathan Creek, so many pretty girls in Jonathan Creek. Because, you know, pretty girls, think about pretty girls, you know. Or to specify, pretty young consenting women. Thing, you know, it's like, hey, congratulations, you've saved the galaxy, have a pretty girl. But hey, at least pretty girls still exist. At least microphilia fiction is still a thing. And integrity, whilst it is saying, hey, we've got the pretty girls and the sharks and the gore. And that's kind of what's there. I mean, I am someone who does sort of like writing stories about pretty girls and explosions, and we've got the dragons and we've got the gore and we've got the pretty girls, but there is also a sense of integrity and the male gaze and how I will be cataloguing pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl. You know, and yes, it does teach today that, like, if you think the worst thing is when a pretty girl doesn't like you back, but that's the hell I'm in. Latent human being. Because I am now thinking 90% of the time about pretty girls. Admittedly, a fair. I'm not going to get bullied. And I just want somewhere where I can look at pretty girls, and that's kind of the place. Needing a safe space to run to, you get the leaning on the crutch of the pretty girls in the head, you know, you have all these things that come exploitative. It is saying we've got sharks, we've got gore, we've got pretty girls, but there is an earnestness to it as well. There is a, you know, without meaning to, just going, is there a pretty girl? Is there a pretty girl? Is there a pretty girl? And there'll be a part of me going, oh, just going, is there a pretty girl? Is there a pretty girl? Is there a pretty girl? And there'll be a part of me going, oh, this isn't right. This is the male. There is this idea that almost there is nothing hotter than seeing a pretty girl wearing her boyfriend's clothes. You know, my mind to your mind. Think of the pretty girl. And then the pretty girls appear in the scene wearing bikinis, and it's somehow someone in society decided, well, pretty girls should never fart. What? Why? Wasn't always the shark eating me, and what if instead it was, you know, pretty girls? Think about pretty girls, you know. Because then you're gonna be the kind of guy who gets the pretty girl. I was more being sold on the idea of the pretty girl because to buy. Except, you know, with VR, you know, it's like, look at all the pretty girls that I still cannot. Then, because I want to make sure that there could be pretty girls I can fuck when I'm 60. I did not least. You have lived your life thinking that the worst thing to happen to you is a pretty girl not liking you back, then you are not and never will be prepared to fight 2 different mods in Skyrim so that he can marry 2 different pretty girls in Skyrim. I will die. Stories that are fundamentally just about pretty girls and lasers and villains twirling their moustaches. God, sharks, it's really scary, and then it would just be like, think of pretty girls, because she happens to like to fantasize about being the pretty girl who gets hit on by the immortal eldritch abomination, you know. Story, because I just want to see pretty girls and explosions and just epic showdowns and shit. I'm kind of